This is Crypto Venta, this is Crypto Venta, this is Crypto Venta. Crypto Venta for you, this is Crypto Venta, this is Crypto Venta, this is Crypto Venta. Crypto Venta for you, smash those likes. Smash those likes. Crypto Venta for you, smash those likes. Smash those likes. Crypto Venta for you, smash those likes. Smash those likes. Crypto Venta for you, for you, for you.
Smash those likes. What you're watching now is the Bitcoin chart, the 1 hour chart. Bitcoin at 32,155. And the reason why we are here right now with you is because of this big event that's going on, this massive Bitcoin event called the B word. Let's take a look at what the B word is and why we are here giving you guys commentary. Well, for one, we know it's the big day where Elon Musk is going to be on stage with Cathie Wood. And let's have a look who else is going to be on stage. Cathie Wood, Jack Dorsey, Elon Musk, and they're going to be part of this big Bitcoin event. I must say, I have been watching this event. I've been watching specifically the demystifying Bitcoin section of it, which is the only section right now that is available to watch. And it has been amazing. So for those people who are new to our channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Crypto Man Run. Third time back here today in the morning. It's charting and technical analysis. In the afternoon, it's more fundamental analysis. And now a live broadcast because we want to bring you live commentary of the B word event with Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey. And it is the event that's pumping the price. We did speak about it earlier on the show, and we said Cathie Wood bought $100 million worth of Bitcoin for her fund before this event. Today, we're going to find out why. Why did she buy $100 million? So this is an unscheduled stream, so I need your help. The help is I need you guys to smash a like. Tell people that we're here. Share it. People are asking me, is it cold in South Africa? It's very cold in South Africa. You can see I'm wearing a jacket indoors in the studio. That's how cold it is in South Africa today. Until I get back to Miami, and it'll be like 35 degrees or 100 degrees or whatever you guys call it in Fahrenheit. Anyway, smash the like. Let's get more people watching the show. Share this because this is an unscheduled broadcast. What we had to do is bring you full coverage of this demystifying Bitcoin conference. You can see that it is broken up into tracks. The first track was the demystifying Bitcoin track, which was superb. What they did was they took the biggest challenges that corporates, big investors would have around Bitcoin, and they debunked them one by one with these amazing speakers. So what did they speak about? They spoke about Bitcoin wasting energy, and that was with Nick Carter. And he gave the facts as to how Bitcoin actually doesn't waste any energy. Then Bitcoin facilitates criminal activity. There, what they did was they got a guy from Chainalysis, which is the company that evaluate or look at chain data. And they actually work with governments around the world to give governments information, believe it or not. And they showed just how little of the transfers on the Bitcoin network were done on Bitcoin, were illicit activities. Then talking about the other FUD, which is Bitcoin is unscalable. And they said, like, yes, it is unscalable at its base layer, but that's because of security. And on its main layer, it is very scalable. That ownership is centralized. And then they went through who holds Bitcoin and how it is spread amongst millions and millions and millions of addresses, over 100 million addresses. And then Lynn Alden came on and she said, can Bitcoin be replaced by a Bitcoin Cash or something like that? Amazing. I want to show you guys just a few scenes, nothing in particular, but just to give you guys an idea of the tone and how credible it was. And they really dumbed it down for the institutional investors. So it's like, you know, they broke it down. It's not for professionals like anyone in the crypto banter community. It is dumbed down for new people in Bitcoin that have FUD. So listen to this.
Now, let's just sort of set the table and actually look at some of the numbers here. So as of today, and there is some uncertainty with all these numbers, a lot of them are estimates. We can't have perfect direct knowledge of all these things because miners are kind of hard to get data from. It's this global set of entities that we can't necessarily triangulate all of who they are. But based on the kind of state of the art and about 0.1% of all the world's energy production, because the world produces a lot more energy than it does mere electricity. And so that's kind of where we are. And whether you think that's really...
So there we go. That's Nick Carter, and he's talking about Bitcoin and demystifying it by numbers. You can see that his presentation is simple, full of numbers, full of facts. Bitcoin miners consume 0.26% of the world's electricity production. Bitcoin mining inputs are variously estimated at 39% renewable, and that was in 2020, before the miners moved out of China. And he goes on and he mentioned this. He went with the whole thing all the way. Freddie says we've got 3 minutes until Elon comes on. Then they brought the guy from Glassnodes and they really debunked all the criminal activity. And let's have a quick listen to what he had to say.
Silk Road, although perhaps not how you might think. I'm an economist. So when I read about the Silk Road on the internet, I was blown away by the way in which Bitcoin was facilitating new types of economic interactions. Now, on the Silk Road, those interactions were illegal, but it demonstrated to me the potential of Bitcoin to transform all of our economic activity. In the years since then, I've been on a mission to accurately understand how Bitcoin is actually used by analyzing data on the blockchain. By 2021, both our ability to understand how Bitcoin is used and the way it is used has been transformed.
On tomorrow's show, we will bring you full coverage of the event. We'll cut up the videos. We'll talk about the important parts, but important for you to see the tone and the nature. And what we're going to be doing when Elon Musk comes on is we're going to be sitting here watching, letting you guys comment. And then at the end of the stream, we're going to give you commentary on exactly what we saw, what the important parts were, what the not so important parts were, and so on. Important to note that if you look at all the different streams, you've got one which is demystifying Bitcoin, and that's really demystifying all the FUD that people could talk about Bitcoin. But then you got things like Bitcoin as a tool for economic empowerment, and that's where Elon is talking. Strange that he's not talking around ESG or the developer ecosystem or securing the Bitcoin network or regulating Bitcoin or preserving the Bitcoin ethos. He's talking around Bitcoin as a tool for economic empowerment. We were expecting a debate. We were expecting to debunk some of the Elon FUD, which is primarily around ESG. Notice that it's not that. So not sure exactly what to expect there. I guess that's the element of surprise. Also, you can keep commenting during the stream. We will be pulling up the comments. Freddie, let's get some comments up there. Let's get some fire up there, man. And Elon is on, as you can see, in 1 minute. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute until Elon's on. Here at the B Word, if you're watching with us, you're watching with the biggest community in the world. Rian says, Lakaran, curfew is at 9. I'll bring you breakfast at 4 a.m. He knows that because we're here and it's past 9 p.m., we're stuck here. We're sleeping here tonight. That's my bed, Fred. That orange one there is my bed. We do have 39 seconds to go until Elon comes on and 35 seconds to go. You guys can be here. We will keep putting up the chats. We will keep keeping you updated. And at the end of it, we will tell you guys what we think and what we saw. I may go and get myself a drink because there's a bar around the corner. So if I disappear like that, it's not that I've gone home. I can't go home. I'm stuck here. It's because I'm going to get myself a beer because it's 9 p.m. So smash that like and let's get sharing. 10 seconds until Elon Musk comes on. You guys are the best community in the world. Look at the comments, Freddie. Look at the comments. Here we go.
Bitcoin is just beginning to gain institutional acceptance. It's time we have an informed discussion. The B Word is a Bitcoin-focused initiative that aims to correct mainstream narratives about Bitcoin, explain how institutions can embrace it, and raise awareness around areas of the network that need support. Featuring Cathie Wood, Jack Dorsey, Elon Musk, Lynn Alden, Nick Carter, and many more. Join us in our effort to support the Bitcoin network.
Just a reminder that if Elon does do anything salty tonight, he's going to get...
Welcome everybody to the B Word. I'm Steve Lee, the lead of Square Crypto, and I'm here today to moderate a discussion about Bitcoin that will span from what makes it special to the its relationship with energy, the community ethos, and the future of Bitcoin. I'm joined by three special guests. The first is Cathie Wood, founder, CEO, and CIO of ARK Invest. Next is Elon Musk, techno king of Tesla and chief engineer of SpaceX. And finally, Jack Dorsey, CEO of Square and CEO of Twitter. So we have a lot to talk about today. So let's get to the talk and get right to it. I'm going to start off by asking each of you a question, which is, what's shaped and influenced your views on Bitcoin?
I'll go first.
And let's start with Cathie.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Well, the first thing was our focus on disruptive innovation. So starting in 2011, Brett Winton, our director of research, who I know will be on the program later, he started talking about this thing called Bitcoin at the time. And it was a curiosity as we were doing our brainstorms in research. But as we learned more about this open source ecosystem, that might fulfill the role of the payment system that the internet neglected to build into the system, not expecting commerce. We thought, this might be something. And then I became even more interested when I realized that my economics would come into play as well here. And Art Laffer, my mentor from USC, and a monetary scholar, in 2014, I asked him if he would collaborate on a paper on Bitcoin. And he was a bit of a naysayer at first, but agreed to read the paper. He read the paper, tore it up, and from an economics point of view, really wanted to understand this. And he said, I think you got something here. This is a rules-based monetary system. I've been waiting for this for my entire career. So the combination of disruptive innovation generally, economics.
We do see Elon wearing a Bitcoin shirt, and Elon's shirt says the evolution of money. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, which kind of thinks that this is going to be bullish.
Thank you. Elon, what's influenced your views on Bitcoin?
Well, I've thought about money for quite a while, obviously, since the PayPal days. And then the companies that preceded that, X.com, which I created, and Confinity, which Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, Luke Howry, and others created. We combined the companies and made PayPal. So I've been thinking about money for a long time. And really, it's best to think of money as an information system, primarily an information system for labor allocation. For practical purposes, it exists in a series of heterogeneous databases, like very different databases in bank mainframes around the world. It moves quite slowly in reality. It may seem to move fast sometimes, and it does with PayPal, which is real time. But the vast majority of the systems out there are batch processing. So the actual reconciliation may take 1 to 5 business days, sometimes longer. And you have the ACH system, which is ancient and still in operation, which allows transfers effectively like a check would be an ACH transfer, but it's not secure. And you've got the credit card systems, which are also not secure. It would be like handing your username and password to a stranger in a restaurant if you buy a meal. So there's definitely an opportunity for something that is better from an information theory standpoint. So and there you can think of it like data on a network. I think is the way to view it. What has the most throughput? What has the least error? What drops the fewest packets? Fraud, for example, being a source of error. And government interference in currencies being a source of error. But it's fundamentally an information system. So I think it makes sense to support something that improves the the quality of information with which we conduct the economy. And Bitcoin is a candidate for that. It does, I think, some things well, and it's obviously it's evolving, and there are additional things like Lightning being done on top of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin per se is mostly solving for scarcity, or rather solving for essentially having no throat to choke, decentralized. So there's no one who can be coerced in any way to empty their Bitcoin account. Well, I guess they could technically, but on an individual basis, but the system as a whole cannot. And it has an open ledger, which is also quite good. But transaction volume is low. Transaction cost is high, and usability for the average person is not yet very good. But it has a lot of potential. And I should say that, like, I'm not, and I apologize for taking a long time, but there certainly is a lot to say. In general, I'm a supporter of Bitcoin and the idea of cryptocurrency in general. But as I've said publicly, we do need to watch out for crypto taking, especially Bitcoin, using proof of work to maybe use energy that's maybe a bit too much and not necessarily good for the environment. So, but on balance, I support Bitcoin, and I'm not an investor. The only publicly traded stock I own is Tesla, and the only significant thing I own outside of Tesla is my SpaceX stock that could help create both companies. So, but apart from that, I do own Bitcoin, and Tesla owns Bitcoin, SpaceX owns Bitcoin, and I do personally own a bit of Ethereum and Dogecoin, of course. So.
Okay, great, thank you. And we'll get into some of those issues in more depth as well. Jack, how about you? What shaped your views of Bitcoin?
The network.
Elon admitting that he owns Bitcoin, only Bitcoin, SpaceX, and Tesla.
It's always evolving, and it just reminded me of the internet when I was a kid. And I encountered alt cypherpunks when I was fairly young, and this was a topic of discussion for years. I didn't touch it until 2008 when we started Square. Elon and teams at X and PayPal inspired a lot of what we were trying to do, trying to bring in more to a physical world. But we encountered this crazy predatory system that was slow, that was obtuse, and I think one of the things that we tried to do, which X and PayPal also tried to do, is build an abstraction layer around this complication and around this predatory nature that the financial industry can tend to be, and make it work for people. But when I saw Bitcoin in 2009, you see a chance to replace the whole foundation. And everything that Elon was talking about in terms of ACH and the credit card networks were built with very different agendas in a very different time frame. And it's crazy that they still exist, and they have scaled, but they just are not relevant to today, and they're certainly not relevant to the future, especially when you consider the entire world and countries like Nigeria or Ghana or India, and its interconnection with countries like the United States and Canada and all over Europe. So what really drove my thinking and drives my passion around it is, like, if the internet gets a chance to get a native currency, what will that be? And to me, it's Bitcoin because of those principles, because of that creation story, because of its resilience, because of the number of tests it's been. But what inspires me the most is just the community driving it. It just reminds me of the early internet. It's the only reason that I have a career, because I learned so much from people like who are building Bitcoin today, and I continue to learn in that sense, and I'm so grateful for it.
That's a good segue into the next question I'd like to ask you, Jack, is you said before that Bitcoin changes everything. Can you speak more to that? Well,
I just think that a lot of what we experience in life, when you really get down to the foundation, a lot of our monetary policies, a lot of our
That candle is probably in response to Elon Musk saying that he owns nothing else but Bitcoin, SpaceX, and Tesla. So he didn't mention anything about Dogecoin. It would be interesting to see the Dogecoin chart now, which we'll get up for you in a second.
They can verify it themselves. You don't have to have trust going in. You don't have to trust it at all. You can verify it through source code or whatever your appetite is. And that any particular person can help drive the future of it. And at the same time, it's not controlled by any state. It's not controlled by any bank. It's not controlled by any corporation. And these three parties of people who participate in the network, people who mine, and also the developers, constantly debating the correct roadmap and the way forward, is a beautiful thing. And I don't know of many other consensus-based models that have existed at that scale for this long with this amount of success. And we're still fairly early. So when, I met a woman in Ethiopia 2 years ago, and she was trying to create the lift for Ethiopia. Elon, I think I reached out to you at that time as well because she really wanted some Teslas. She still has to take paper fiat cash from her passengers and pay all of her drivers in the same way because there's no monetary system that she can utilize. There's nothing digital. And Africa as a continent is hugely interconnected from a monetary standpoint, but also hugely taxed in that same way. So a lot of the potential that I see, the internet having a native currency helps her build her business in a much faster way. And also, if you consider something like Bitcoin existing before YouTube, before Twitter, before Facebook, a lot of the business models that we have today would not be the same. We would certainly not have the dependency we have upon the advertising business model if Bitcoin existed pre-Twitter. And I think the amount of business models that it enables, the amount of innovation it enables going forward, especially when you can consider the whole internet instead of going country by country by country by country, which you have to whenever you're dealing with finance, it really just opens the aperture. And that is what I want to see in my lifetime is a currency that is standard and sound for the internet that everyone can use.
Great. A hallmark of Bitcoin is its fixed supply of 21 million coins. Elon referenced that earlier. It may be the first system that humans have created that humans cannot later change. Kathy, I'm curious, with your background in monetary history and macroeconomics, what are your thoughts on that type of system?
Oh, well, I'll recount the story about Art Laffer and our going through the paper. And he said, as I said, first rules-based monetary system, global, ever. This is a very big idea. Once we had convinced him of the ecosystem itself. Now, this is the role that it's playing, given that the rule is a quantity rule, that 21 million units, is really a store of value role. So there are three roles of money. Store of value, very important. The means of exchange, so for transactions, and the unit of account. Every good priced in terms of whatever the unit is. So store of value is its primary use right now. The others exist. Unit of account, reserve currency of the crypto asset ecosystem. That's being seeded a little bit towards stable coins right now. But the store of value is a very big role. And means of exchange with apps built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, we think is going to become more of a reality. Right now, high value transactions take place over Bitcoin, and that is a very useful role. So we look at those, and I remember saying to Art, "How big could this be?" And he said, well, how big is the US monetary base? Well, today it's $8 trillion. $8 trillion. At the time we were talking, it was $4 trillion. So we've gone through another crisis since then. And so this store of value, this idea that purchasing power will go up over time if demand rises relative to supply ultimately fixed at 21 million units. That's a very good thing. Purchasing power going up globally around the world. And this idea that it's a hedge against confiscation of wealth. And that can take place in a myriad of ways. But inflation, and especially hyperinflation in emerging markets, is the primary way. Talk about destroying purchasing power. So that's a very big idea. And I'll also mention deflation. In some ways, it's a hedge against deflation. I know some people are confused that we at ARC think that we're in a deflationary environment here in the United States. If that is true, the odds of a hyperinflation in the rest of the world, especially in emerging markets, is also true. So, but this deflation, and we learned from 0809, there's a counterparty risk associated with deflation. And I think Bitcoin would be a hedge against that eventuality as well. So it's a very big idea.
Right. I suspect among us, there's not a lot of debate about Bitcoin's potential as a store of value. But Jack, you referenced earlier it being or becoming the native currency of the internet. Can you speak more to that, and also how it relates to maybe how...
I mean, is it me, or does Elon look like he's got somewhere better to be? He looks slightly bored, possibly. I mean, he does look a little bit bored.
I happen to be in Ghana, and my family is in Nigeria. Currently, I can take anywhere from... and I need to send money back, anywhere from 10 to 30% off the top just to send that money back. Whereas if you just focus on the worldwide remittance problem, Bitcoin solves so many of those problems today instantly without having to go through any intermediaries or any slowness or complicated systems that a corporation or state created. So I think having sound money that is separate from the state is the idea. Having it completely verifiable by everyone, including the state, including corporations, including individuals, including developers who want to build on top of it, is quite powerful, and that's what keeps it secure and strong. And I think that's we need more of that, which is why this one of the reasons why this conversation is so important is as entities come into the space, it's not just buying an asset and holding on to an asset and treating it as an investment. There's something special that created this, and something precious and something very unique, which has to be protected, and we need to do whatever we can to help that thrive as well.
Elon, I'm curious your opinion on this. You mentioned earlier about Bitcoin's throughput, or the importance of throughput, maybe some concerns around Bitcoin. Can you speak, do you think Bitcoin can become peer-to-peer cash?
Well, Bitcoin does have a fundamental scarcity limit at the base layer that's designed in. That doesn't mean you can't have some layer 2 system in theory like Lightning. And I understand Lightning is doing well in some small countries. There's some question mark as to whether you need a money transmitter license. Just a debate as to whether that's needed, given that it is not open ledger. So that's a whole separate debate, of course. But Bitcoin by itself simply cannot scale to be the monetary system for the world at base layer. But with a second layer, this is possible depending upon how that second layer is implemented. Yeah, that's part of why I think there may be some merit to something that may seem silly, like Ethereum, like Dogecoin. I think Ethereum also, like I said, the three things I own outside of SpaceX and Tesla, and obviously it's a Neuralink and Boring Company, but of any significance are Bitcoin by far, and then some Ethereum and some Doge. So if the price of Bitcoin goes down, I lose money. I'm not sort of you know, I might pump, but I don't dump. So, you know, it's not a case of, I definitely do not believe in, in getting the price high and selling or anything like that. And I would like to see Bitcoin succeed. I think there's some merit to, this is not a slam on Bitcoin, there's some merit to considering something that has higher max transaction rates and a lower transaction cost, and kind of seeing how far you could take a single layer network where the exchanges act as a de facto second layer. I think you can probably take that further than people realize, and as bandwidth increases over time, latency decreases. SpaceX's Starlink is actually playing a role in this, and I think long term people will probably have, you know, access to worldwide access to gigabit level connectivity at low latency, and so at low cost. And so then, you know, your base layer could do a lot of transactions if you take that into account. So yeah, but like I said, Bitcoin with a layer 2 system certainly could scale to do a vast number of transactions. Same goes for Ethereum.
Question about the scaling at the layer 1. The concern from, you know, the past 5 years of debate in the Bitcoin community is that that would sacrifice too much decentralization and hurt the censorship-resistant properties of Bitcoin. I'm curious if you know, what are your thoughts on that? Are you sensitive to that? And are you concerned about losing some of the special properties of Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency by scaling at layer 1?
Yeah, I mean, these things are helpful to like use the physics tools of thinking and say, you know, scale up, scale down, and see if it still makes sense. So if scaling up the transaction block doesn't make sense, why don't you scale it down? And have it be, you know, so that somebody, you know, with a laptop from 2008 can still run a Bitcoin node. Why not slow it down? Oh, you want to slow it down? Well, maybe you're at the wrong number then.
there's actually people, there's members in the community that do want to slow it down, but I understand your point.
It's silly. The reality is, like, the average person is not going to run a Bitcoin node. So this is a and Bitcoin, you know, it was a lot of clever ideas, but you know, these parameters were set, I don't know what, in 2008 or something, maybe 2009. And there's been some improvements since then, but not a lot. So, you know, it's sort of like there was still, in 2008, there was still a non-trivial number of people on modems. So, you know, now it is quite common to get 100 megabit connection just for a house. Some houses have gigabit connections. So, and that trend is obviously in the direction of higher bandwidth and lower latency. And if somebody else doesn't do it, Starlink certainly will. So I have high confidence that you will be able to maintain a decentralized finance system while still having a much bigger blockchain, aka ASCII text ledger, a hash ledger. You can make a hash ledger bigger without suffering from decentralization as the average connectivity improves, obviously.
What idea would be to to put a Bitcoin full node in Starlink terminals? That way more people would be running.
Actually, I have run this by the team at one point. I had this idea, which is kind of off the wall, but like, let's say you need a little space heater, and normally your space heater would just be pure entropy. But what if that space heater was also a, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge mining node? Pick your currency, and so then you'd be heated up, and you would also mine it, you know, your crypto, and have connectivity in one.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, better than running a space heater.
Absolutely. Are there any other so you're drawn to Dogecoin a little bit. Are there any other gaps in Bitcoin that you see that cause you to be drawn towards Dogecoin?
Oh, I think, I mean, I think there's Doge has the Doge community. I think is somewhat irreverent, obviously, and has great memes and loves dogs, and I love dogs and memes, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think there's Occam's razor, which is the simplest answer is the most likely. It's a summary of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the most likely one. Then there's a friend of mine came up with a variant on that the most ironic outcome is the most likely one. And then I have a variant on that, which is the most entertaining outcome is the most likely one. So if that is true, then the most ironic and entertaining outcome would be that the cryptocurrency that was started as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies ends up being the leading cryptocurrency. That would be the most ironic outcome. Yeah.
Jack, what are your thoughts on that? Is Bitcoin resilient enough to overcome that?
I think it's resilient, but also I think like you find, I mean, that's what attracts me to Bitcoin in the first place is the irreverence. A lot of that just brings it forward, and at first go it makes it a little bit inaccessible, but as people get into it, it makes it more accessible and more spreadable. And I absolutely think the resilience is there. I think it's important to have fun as well. And anyway, folks can express themselves. I think that goes back to the main idea of like how do we create a native currency for the internet? Anything that goes towards that path, like that's whatever wackiness or fun we can have along the way. That's going to make it a lot more enjoyable, and it's going to make a lot more people want to use it.
I'd also point out there's nothing stopping someone from creating a Bitcoin wallet that's like fun and has memes, has dogs. That's possible as well. Great. Let's move on.
Right now at this point.
Let's move on to the next topic, which is Bitcoin and energy. It's a really hot topic that lots of people are talking about. Let's start with Elon. You've been vocal on this. You've said that. I mean, you said many things about it. You've also said that
this is the most important part, I think, of tonight's debate is the energy question.
Energy is approximately 50% and sort of looks like it's on a positive future trend. What do you think the state of things are with respect to that?
This is it.
Yeah, so I do think that there appears to be a positive trend in the energy usage of Bitcoin. Actually, part of this is due to the drop in Bitcoin price. I mean, what I observed, or what I thought I was seeing, there may be some disagreements on this, but from when Tesla announced that it had acquired Bitcoin and was doing Bitcoin transactions, there was a massive run-up in the Bitcoin price, and also a massive increase in the amount of energy used to mine Bitcoin. And I think I understand renewable energy quite a bit. I mean, Tesla does solar and interacts with a lot of wind generation through our mega pack, because basically need to store energy from wind and from solar. So we're pretty plugged into the renewable energy industry. And there's just no way that you could basically double or triple the amount of energy in such a short period of time with renewables. You could shovel coal that fast. And so I was like, look, this is too sketchy. Tesla's mission is accelerating the advent of sustainable energy. We can't be the company that does that and also not do appropriate diligence on the energy usage of Bitcoin. So all I did was I said, look, we're going to suspend Bitcoin transactions for now. We're not selling any Bitcoin, nor am I selling anything personally, nor is SpaceX selling any Bitcoin. Again, I want to emphasize SpaceX, Tesla, and I own Bitcoin. I also own a little bit of Ethereum and Doge, but the companies just own Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin that I own is worth much more than the Ethereum or Doge. So clearly, if I'm these actions negatively affect me financially. If I was purely financially motivated, then I would not express this reticence about Bitcoin energy usage. Now, it looks like Bitcoin is shifting a lot more towards renewables, and a bunch of the heavy-duty coal plants that were being used, unequivocally being used, this is not a question mark, have been shut down, especially in China. So I think it's probably, I want to do a little bit more diligence to confirm confirm that the percentage of renewable energy usage is most likely sort of at or above 50%, and that there is a trend towards increasing that number. And if so, then Tesla will resume Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin. So I think we want to just do a little bit more diligence, and I think, but most likely the answer is that Tesla would resume accepting Bitcoin. Most likely.
Sounds
That's
convincing.
good to hear. I would
Steve-
agree with that. Kathy?
Yeah, may I ask a question? Elon, I'm not quite sure if you saw the paper that Square and ARC did together on making Bitcoin mining a part of a utility, a broad-based utility ecosystem, whereby, the overage from sunshine or wind powers the Bitcoin mining machine, thereby enabling the proliferation of renewables to a much faster extent, or at a faster rate than otherwise would be the case. What do you think of that?
Well, the problem is that in order to operate so-called mining or hashing rigs, in order to operate a bunch of hashing rigs, effectively, you have to run them 24/7, which means you need base load. You can do that with solar and wind plus battery, but if you only did it based on solar wind overage, your hashing rig utilization would be much less. So you'd be at a disadvantage.
Sure,
Hydro or geothermal are great as renewable means. I'm also pro nuclear. I think modern nuclear power plants are safe, contrary to what people may think. I really think it's possible to make very, very extremely safe nuclear. I'm talking about fission. You don't need fusion. And then, of course, fusion. You just got that big fusion reactor in the sky called the sun. It comes up every day. But I think a combination of solar and wind plus stationary storage will get you that base load, so you can run hashing 24/7.
Jack, I'm curious. You've stated that Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy. That's what we're talking about now. Do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Elon said and Kathy mentioned, but it's also incentivizing a lot of innovation in just energy space, and just like looking at unused energy. There's a company called Great American Mining that caps the methane flares on oil fields to power their rigs. And you just imagine, and you mentioned nuclear, Elon, as well, and just imagine all the unused energy that is just being wasted every single day. And being able to get that energy and converting it into a secure, sound money system for the planet feels like a worthy trade-off. And that's the sort of incentive that I think is most powerful, is like, how do we reuse what is being currently just dumped on the ground and wasted and not considered, and how do we do that at scale? And I think that's a bigger conversation that I think is missing. But I agree with everything that Elon has said, and also the paper we put forth.
I'm curious if any of you have thoughts on how what the industry can do to accelerate the transition to renewable energy. And like Elon specifically, could Tesla Energy or Starlink play a role?
Well, I think Tesla can play a role. Tesla's. literal reason for existence. I mean, the reason I've put so much of my life energy into Tesla, which is a lot. In fact, I would say that I've had some pretty tough life experiences, and Tesla is responsible for probably 2/3 of all personal and professional pain combined. Just to give you a sense of perspective there. So this is a hella hard situation. But we do solar, commercial solar, solar retrofit, as well as the solar roof, and we make consumer battery packs called Powerwall for houses and small businesses, and then the utility scale, which are gigantic. These we've done now a number of gigawatt hour installations. That's a lot. That's a lot. And a lot of them actually have been for load leveling the grid. Mostly they are, and combined with the first really big one we did, which is 100 megawatt installation in Australia. That's actually helped stabilize a huge portion of the South Australian grid, because it's able to react so fast. In fact, at first, because they've got a billing system in Australia that I think works at the sort of millisecond level, and we were operating at the microsecond level. So the system was operating so fast that the measuring system couldn't see it. But so Tesla's certainly doing a lot to enable renewables, especially wind and solar. And in fact, the limiting factor for us right now is cell production. So we need to both internally get the Tesla internal battery cells produced, as well as increase supply from suppliers. And generally, when I talk to our suppliers and they say, how many cells would you like us? Like, how many cells can you make? Because sometimes they're concerned, well, is Tesla going to compete with them on cells? I'm like, no. If you want to make the cells, be our guest. It's just that we need a crazy number of batteries, and they need to be done. It obviously needs to be mined and produced and manufactured in an ethical and environmentally sound way. So, at Tesla, we really do aspire to be the good guys, to be a company that people can believe in. That doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, but that's what we try. So, but I think generally hydro, especially existing hydro, is good for mining. Geothermal, there's lots of places in the world that have geothermal energy. Like I said, nuclear is also good. I think just I'm like as I said earlier, the expectation is not that the energy production must be pure as the driven snow, but it must it can't be using it also cannot be using the world's dirtiest coal, which was for a moment there. That's just difficult for Tesla to support in that situation. So I think, but I do think long-term renewable energy will actually be the cheapest form of energy. It just doesn't happen overnight. But as long as there is a conscious and determined and real effort by the mining community to move towards renewables, then obviously Tesla can support that.
That's great. Kathy, we've been talking a lot about energy, but many institutions are facing questions around Bitcoin's relationship with ESG. Can you maybe speak a little bit more to what is S and G in ESG and how Bitcoin might support those?
Sure. So E, of course, is environmental, S is social, and G is governance. And there is a massive movement afoot in the institutional world, especially, to embrace ESG and make sure that their asset managers are doing the same. So if we've just talked about environmental, and I really do believe that Bitcoin will be much more environmentally friendly, certainly than traditional gold mining or the traditional financial services sector. In many ways, it already is. And it's just going to get better that way. In terms of social, I know that many institutions, when they are thinking of social, they think of diversity and equity, pay equity, and all of that. But if from our point of view, the disruptive innovation point of view, social is much more than that. It is saving lives, of course, autonomous technology, that would be another topic for Elon. But in this case, allowing access to payment technology, as Jack is saying, everywhere around the world without friction. And just back to the remittance example, I think if I've got these stats correctly, there are certain countries in the world that are incredibly dependent on remittances for GDP. To Tonga, 37%, El Salvador, which just deemed Bitcoin legal currencies, 24%, Nepal, 24%. And I think the remittance industry globally, I know it's roughly 700 billion. So saving people these egregious fees, think about it, you're paying anywhere from 8% to, as Jack said, 30% of your $100 that you're sending back to your family. That is social responsibility, I would submit, as is just the economic empowerment that Bitcoin will enable. We've talked about that already. And I know that Alex Gladstein is going to be talking later about, the 4.3 billion people in the world who are hostage to authoritarian regimes, or the 1.3 billion who are living in double-digit and triple-digit inflation, if not more. Saving them from the destruction of their purchasing power certainly is a noble social goal. So we expand social to be much more than the traditional ESG community. And then on governance, you've got the transparency of the ecosystem. It's completely transparent, unlike the opaqueness of financial systems and the toll takers in the traditional financial world. And I think a huge part of governance in the Bitcoin ecosystem are the Bitcoin core developers. Now, before I met them, and I've had the pleasure and the honor of meeting many of them, that was a part of this ecosystem I didn't understand. But actually getting to sit down and talk to them, if I have a learning curve need, it certainly is on the technology side. But in terms of talking to them about economics, economic theory, failed monetary regimes historically, they know economic history, many of them, better than anyone I've ever met. So that gives me a great degree of confidence that, they do believe they are on a noble mission. They could be paid a lot more than they're being paid right now if they worked at Google or Facebook or some of these other areas. But they've chosen, this sense of purpose for a noble goal. And they have incredibly strong technology backgrounds. As well as a good understanding of economic history, especially monetary history. And it gives me a great deal of comfort as I think about the governance of the ecosystem, much more so than I think we would find in other financial ecosystems. And just to give you an example of that, I think 2 years, we were talking about, there's a big debate about reorganizations, I know, in the Ethereum network right now. Well, we saw the core Bitcoin developers and others at work back in 2019 when Binance tried to reorganize in order to reclaim 7,000 Bitcoin that were hacked. And they just wouldn't allow it. So we've already had some very good tests of the Bitcoin ecosystem, including developers. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. And it's a great transition to the next topic area, which is Bitcoin ethos. And what is Bitcoin ethos? I mean, Bitcoin was born as open source and it's very transparent. There's also a staunch defense from the community around decentralization and a lot of the core principles of Bitcoin. So let's talk a little bit about that and what makes it special. Jack, Square has done a lot to support open source Bitcoin. Can you tell us a little bit about what Square has done and what advice you'd have for other institutions looking to follow in its footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, I was very skeptical of corporations when I was a kid, and I'm still skeptical of corporations today. And as we've used corporations to be, they've been great vessels for what we need to do and the ideas that we need to bring to the world. But Bitcoin is not that. And when we were considering Bitcoin and how Square intersected, I was really concerned with how we don't disrupt the community in a negative way, how we promote what is amazing about it, and how we help it grow in that way, in the way that it wants to. So we created your team, Steve, which is Square Crypto, which is hiring open source developers to work on whatever they want and whatever they think is most important to help Bitcoin. We created an organization called Copo, which we gave up all of our crypto patents so that the community can use them in defense against trolls and some crazy characters we won't name. And we continue to find ways that, following that Bitcoin path, we're going to create a hardware wallet. We're probably going to do a lot more in hardware. Everything that we do in the space is going to be completely open source, from the hardware design to the software, taking in the community's push. And we're building a developer platform as well, in the same open development, open source, and completely transparent. So I think as institutions or companies like ours consider getting in the space, I think contribution back to the community is important. Tesla did this with accepting payments for Tesla and finding security holes and improving the stack. And as I said before, we can't just see this as an asset that we own and an investment vehicle. This is something that has the potential to change everything and make the lives of everyone on this planet better in some small, maybe marginal way, but those margins will be meaningful as they compound over time.
Great. Elon, you've tweeted before that any wallet that doesn't give the user their private key should be avoided at all costs. Can you tell us more about why is that important, and how does what's its relationship with decentralization?
Well, it's difficult to say that if you own crypto in an exchange and the exchange does not give you your private keys, it's not clear that you own anything. I mean, if there's something that, if that exchange breaks or is hacked or or it's subject to seizure by the government or something like that, your crypto is gone. So in order to actually have a properly decentralized finance, which I'm a fan of, I think it makes sense. Then you have to own your private keys, and you should be the only one who has your private keys. So if you're the only one who has the private keys, then you own it. If someone else has your private keys, effectively they own it too, and the security of your crypto is then dependent upon them or any entity that can affect them. So yeah, I think what Jack's doing sounds like a good idea to have a hardware wallet that's the only thing that contains your private keys. I think that's like in terms of sort of empowering the people, which I very much believe in. Then I think you want to have people have their own wallets and be the only ones that have the private keys to that wallet. So-called wallet, the other side of the crypto.
Right. I agree, and I think we'll see an emergence too of new solutions that use multi-sig, like with a 2 of 3 keys, where the user has 2 keys, and then you get assisted custody by having an institution hold a 3rd key. Can be a good solution as well.
Yeah. Well, you can just put your private key in something that has dual access or voting access as an application on an existing network.
Right. So the Bitcoin community is known for staunchly defending Bitcoin's principles. Sometimes it can be rude and aggressive, but I think what it stems from is just a desire to not have wealthy or powerful people or institutions negatively impacting Bitcoin or sort of changing the rules in favor of them. I'm curious to hear from each of you what role you feel like you and your own institutions, your own companies, what role can you play in Bitcoin, and how do you positively impact it without having these negative drawbacks? Kathy, maybe start with you.
Sure. Yes. Well, ARC has stood for two things: democratization and transparency. We're the closest you'll find to a venture capital fund in the public equity markets, and I kind of feel that Bitcoin, or we have Bitcoin's DNA from that point of view. One of the things in terms of democratization is education. We have one of our missions, values, is to educate, and I do believe that that some of Yassine El-Mandra's white papers. Yassine's our lead crypto analyst, who's worked very closely with you, Steve, on this conference, are helping the cause. We've done, and not only for retail investors, we found that we had to do a bit more when it came to institutional investors, just because of the way that they invest and the way they like to receive information. So just like in our investments, we've been the retail community has been more attracted to us first, and now the institutional community is coming along. So I do think our transparency of research, especially in the social world, social media, pushing our research out for free to anyone, is part of our way of helping the community. And I do think encouraging, and this is something that Jack just said, I would encourage the support of the Bitcoin core developer community. As I said before, it's amazing to me, having gotten to know some of them, how strong their sense of purpose is here. And so we'd like to be helpful in making that happen as well.
That's great. Jack, how about you? How do you view your own personal role and the companies you run?
I think my own personal role through the companies I run is to really push for more decentralization, like at everything that we intend to do with the wallet, being non-custodial, building a developer platform, focusing on non-custodial solutions. On the Square side is important, being completely open development and open source. But I also think it's important on the Twitter side as well. My biggest focus right now is on a decentralized social media protocol. We're calling it Blue Sky. It's super, super early, but we've learned a lot from what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin and why that's important. I've learned a lot in that sense as well. And I think, just continuing to push on that thread and show it with our actions every single day in support of this community that's taught me so much, and I think will benefit so many people. And that's what I'm focused on.
What about letting Twitter advertisers pay in crypto?
Yeah, I think enabling anyone. As you know, Elon, if we had Bitcoin or a native currency for the internet before Twitter started, it just creates so many different business models that we wouldn't have to be so dependent upon advertising generally. And sure. I do believe that that we have them, any form of payment that they want to use, we should be able to take. So okay. Absolutely, but I'm more focused on how do we create economic incentives in the network itself without having to rely on advertising.
Yeah, it's just that the money has to come off of the crypto so-called coins, the hash strings have to come off and get translated into real products and services. So the more sort of off-ramps there are to real products and services, even at the institutional level. Although I mean, there are certainly many small advertisers on Twitter. It seems like accepting Bitcoin, maybe some other cryptos for advertising payments on Twitter would be supportive of Bitcoin.
100%. And also looking at just
Pushing
general
Jack here
commerce
to accept crypto.
through Twitter itself.
That would be great. Sorry, what, Elon?
I was asking Jack if he's going to do it.
Oh.
We're definitely gonna do it.
Can we get a
Definitely gonna do it.
product announcement today? Elon, how about you? You obviously you're a big personality on Twitter. What are your thoughts on your role and your company's role in Bitcoin and sort of preserving the ethos?
Yeah, I mean, I generally think we should do things that benefit the people as a whole and increase the probability that the future is good. So, I think to me, it just seems self-evident that we should kind of take these set of actions most likely to make the future good. And I think probably crypto or some of the cryptocurrencies will make the future better, most likely. It's not, I always think of these things in terms of probabilities, but I think it's probably better for there to be a prosperous Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, maybe some others in the future. And I think it can have an empowering effect for individuals and increase the power of the individual relative to government. And really, if you think of government is just a corporation in the limit. So sometimes some people are like against corporations but for government. It's like, guys, government is just a corporation in the limit. It's the biggest corporation of all, and it's got a monopoly on violence. So if you don't like corporations, you should really hate government.
There you go. All right, we got about we'll try to wrap up in 10 minutes. So let's move on to future of Bitcoin. So Tesla and Square have both put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Kathy, I'm curious to hear from you. What advice would you have for other institutions looking to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet?
Well, I guess the first piece of advice is, just make sure, and I actually learned this after both Square and Tesla put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Bitcoin is being treated as an intangible asset. And so we need to get FASB to reconsider this, because with an intangible asset, if the asset goes up in price, it can't be marked up on their books. But if it goes down, it must be marked down. So, there's some asymmetry there, which is, we need to change that given what we believe Bitcoin is. And I do believe if, I'll harken back to something, well, it was either Elon or Jack said, think about it, you take away the boundaries, the different currencies, just think about how explosive growth could be and how wide-reaching taking the friction out of the system could be. So I would encourage corporations to think about that this ability to do business anywhere in the world, ultimately, obviously, we're paving the way here. That's certainly a consideration. It also will serve as a hedge against inflation, especially, and as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of emerging markets that are suffering from significant inflation. In other words, the purchasing power of those populations is going down. So they are going to migrate to Bitcoin and other ways to preserve purchasing power. And again, being able to sell to them in that kind of currency would be very useful. I'd also suggest, once again, this idea of deflation, I think, is going to be a real thing. There's going to be good deflation caused by innovation, so demand will boom because of that. There's going to be bad deflation because so many companies out there have not been investing enough in innovation. Their products are going to go obsolete, and they're going to be stuck trying to service the debt that they piled on because their shareholders wanted profits and wanted them now. So they leveraged up to buy back their shares and pay dividends, and so I think that's going to be the source of bad deflation and counterparty risk. And we learned from 0809 that counterparty risk can be devastating, almost cataclysmic. So a hedge against that as well, I think, would be another reason to do it.
Great.
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of like Tesla's bank balances in Europe have negative interest rates. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, if you've got like 2% inflation and 1% interest, you're technically minus 1% return. But nonetheless, it is quite annoying to just see your bank balance drop in real time in Europe. Europe has negative interest rates. This is insane.
Paying the banks, paying the banks to hold
the bank to keep your money. I'm like, what?
It is crazy.
Like, what? We should definitely move that into Bitcoin.
I believe Ray Dalio said, buy Bitcoin and not bonds. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, you've talked about design being an underfunded area in Bitcoin. And Elon earlier mentioned, usability could improve a lot. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. What do you see as the future of how can design impact Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Bitcoin network is beautifully designed as a protocol in the way it works. I mean, it went after a single problem, and it does in an absolutely astounding way. But I think the endpoint of people getting into it is still a little bit confusing. So I think the more energy we spend on wallets and making sure that the wallets are simple and accessible and they're non-custodial as well. I think the best example of this is that I know of is probably this wallet called Moon, and it's just simple, straightforward. It's a great. It does an amazing thing with key management that my mom and friends new to Bitcoin can understand. Does amazing in storage, and it also has a very clever implementation of Lightning, so that you can use it in a transactional way without having to think about it. Just with QR codes in a way that makes sense. So more work like that, I think, really brings us forward.
Great. Let's wrap things up with a final question for each of you. I guess what is your hope for Bitcoin? How it can impact the world? Let's see, Elon, do you want to start with that? So what's your hope? What's your hope for Bitcoin?
Well, my hope for I guess crypto in general is that it can improve the efficiency of the information system that we call money. So if the core efficiency of money is improved and and money has less error, where, like I said, error is like any kind of government interference or fraud or anything like that, this will naturally lead to basically a better standard of living and more power to the individual, which I very much agree with.
Great. Kathy?
Yeah, and I would segue from what Elon just said is, money has powerful network effect qualities. And so, we talked about ESG earlier. I think that, of course, that aspiration, having this money be the best from an ESG point of view, that's really talking about solving some of the world's problems right now, which we definitely want to do. But I also am very excited about this idea of network effect and the convergence of blockchain technology and artificial intelligence from a technology point of view. I think, think about the internet in the earliest days. We couldn't imagine what was going to happen, but the impetus to growth was pretty incredible. So I am looking at this rules-based monetary policy, making for better lives around the world, as we've just said. But I'm also looking at the technology itself and the convergence between blockchain technology and artificial intelligence to change the world in ways that we cannot imagine right now, solving even more problems, but creating more opportunities as well, which is the history of technology and disruptive innovation.
Jack, what's your hope for Bitcoin?
My hope is that it creates world peace, or helps create world peace. I mean, Elon said it earlier, like we have all these monopolies of violence, and the individual doesn't have power. And the amount of cost and distraction that comes from our monetary system today is real, and it takes away attention from the bigger problems. Some of the bigger problems that Elon is trying to solve, like get us to a multi-planetary humanity. All these distractions that we have to deal with on a daily basis take away from those bigger goals that affect every single person on this planet, increasingly so. So it may sound a little bit ridiculous, but like you fix that foundational level and everything above it improves in such a dramatic way. So it's going to be long term, but my hope is definitely peace.
That's fantastic. Well, I'd like to thank all three of you for giving us your time today. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. The B word is not just this discussion, but we have a lineup of incredible speakers and content. So I encourage everyone to check it out. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So what do we think? What do we think? What are the takeaways from the B word? Well, Bitcoin responding, there's a red candle. Not as well as we thought, but I guess we're still up on the day. We're still up 7% in the day. We have pumped from about 28,000, and we are up. And I think let's get through what I took out of that, what I didn't know. And then we'll talk about what we think as a community, as the Banter community. If you enjoyed that, give us a like, smash the like, subscribe to our channel to get more people watching this. This is an unscheduled stream. So I think the first thing that I took out of it was that Elon looks tired. He looks tired. He seems to have put on weight. He doesn't look healthy. He looks tired and sleepy. And I guess that is because he is running Tesla, SpaceX, the boring company, etc. He did say that he owns Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin. He said that his Bitcoin holdings were much bigger than his Ethereum and his Dogecoin holdings. He looks tired. He did talk about running a node in each one of the Starlink nodes, which is amazing. To me, he didn't sound that impressed by Doge. It sounded like it was a fun game for him, and I'm glad that he's finally clarified that, because there were people in the Dogecoin community that actually really thought that he was being very, very serious about Doge. He seems to have a much more serious approach around Bitcoin. He seems to have much more money around Bitcoin. He reiterated many times that he wants to see it succeed and that he is invested in it. And I think he said he has quite a lot of money in it. And so he has an interest to see it work. He said that Tesla was doing due diligence, and it seemed to me like he was almost over the edge. Like we know Tesla's going to accept it. It's going to happen pretty soon. It seemed again, and we've said this on our show many times, that this is coming from the big funds, the investors that put him under pressure. And when he spoke about it, it's a pity we can't go back and actually look at the clips yet, because it's too soon afterwards. But he spoke about it as if he kind of knew that Tesla was going to start accepting Bitcoin. It was a given. They're doing a bit more work. He said that Bitcoin needs to be at about 50% or just over 50% in renewable energy. And we know the numbers are very close to that. Several times on the stream, he mentioned that things are better since he tweeted. He mentioned that the miners have left China. He mentioned that the old bad coal mining, which happened before, is no longer there. You kind of get the feeling that he did that to instigate the move out of China. I don't know. I got a very strange feeling that this whole thing of Bitcoin moving out of China and Elon's tweet weren't coincidental, that this happened a month apart. It just feels too strange to me that, 2 months ago, Elon tweets about ESG. A month later, the Chinese government bans Bitcoin mining, primarily in states where it's non-renewable mining. Kathy asked him an important question. Can Tesla play a role? And I think he hinted that in the future, Tesla possibly could play a role. Then Kathy dropped the bombshell. Kathy said ESG is environment, but also social. And I think that that's the part that most people don't understand. When people talk about investing in ESG or responsible investing, it is environment and social. The S stands for social. And Bitcoin does fulfill a massive social impact of giving people a bank account and giving people that are unbanked access to finance and DeFi. And she mentioned El Salvador. So that was also a big one. Elon, a big fan of decentralized finance. He said it. He said, I'm a fan of decentralized finance. I'm also a big fan of what Jack is doing at Square, which is this non-custodial hardware wallet that will hold your hardware coins. Interesting points from Jack around wanting to build a decentralized social network. They called it Blue Sky. And he said it's very early stages, but that's where he is spending a lot of his energy. Very, very, very interesting, because he said he hates corporations, but Twitter is a corporation. Look at it whichever way you want. Twitter is a corporation. Another big interesting point for me was Kathy saying that Bitcoin is currently an intangible asset. And what that means for any US corporation that wants to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, this is huge, is that if the value of the asset goes down, they have to mark it down and effectively take a knock in their balance sheet. But if the value of the asset goes up, they don't mark it up, which means they don't pay tax on it. But it also means that they don't mark up the value of the asset. So it's kind of a lose-lose game, or a win-lose. You win because you don't pay tax as a corporation when the price goes up, unless you sell. But if the price does go down, you have to mark down the value of your Bitcoin, which means that Elon needs to be very, very scared now. Because Tesla is not profitable. And in fact, the only profit that they have made is on Bitcoin. And they now, if Bitcoin goes down to below the price which they bought it, they have to mark down the value of the Bitcoin on their balance sheet or in their financials, which would actually cause them to make a non-operating loss in their balance sheet, which is huge. Just think about that for institutions. So the law has to change. He did challenge Jack, and he wouldn't let Jack go when he said to Jack, why don't you accept Bitcoin or crypto as a form of payment from your advertisers? And I don't know why, but Jack seemed to avoid that question. It probably would have been such a simple answer. Yes, we will. We'll do it from tomorrow. Jack didn't do that. Jack didn't do that. We need to understand why Jack didn't do that. So all in all, I think it was positive. I didn't expect them to talk about all of that, because the name of the track, as I mentioned to you in the beginning, the name of the track, which let me show it to you guys just so you understand. The name of the track here was not ESG or FUD or anything like that, but the name of the track was very much around Bitcoin as a tool for economic empowerment. And now if you go onto the B word, there is supporting the developer ecosystem, securing the Bitcoin network, and a whole lot of really boring talks, although there is going to be one from Hester Purse later. The price of Bitcoin, well, didn't react very much. We had a big pump in the beginning. As you can see, Bitcoin went to about 32,500 in response to Elon saying that he owns Bitcoin. But I think then the excitement died down, and now we're back at 32,000. But we'll take 32,000. We will take 32,000. Anyway, to talk more about what we saw tonight, my good friend Matty, and of course Sheldon. Sheldon's in the waiting room. Sheldon, people are talking about your eyes and saying, your eyes are a bit red. I mean, the eye infection?
He was out partying with Elon Musk.
I don't know if Sheldon's got his microphone on. He needs to go get headphones. Okay, so Sheldon hasn't got his headphones on. Matty, what did you think? What were your main takeouts of the talk today? Is it what you expected, more than you expected, less than you expected?
Yeah, I thought that was actually, I mean, I don't know that anything great was revealed today, but I thought it was certainly surpassed my expectations, I would say. I mean, I went in with relatively low. I mean, there was a lot of hype. I mean, we saw the prices moving. We don't usually see prices moving ahead of an event like this. And I felt that this was going to be like kind of a pump and dump event. I'm a bit, we didn't quite get to that 50-day moving average, right? As far as the charts are concerned. So they didn't really break any barriers. I mean, 32 is great. We're coming off that. Whenever, and even in the traditional markets, Ron, when you have like these kind of big hype events and you see the market moving with FOMO, then you have to think about what's going to happen 2 hours later or the next day. Like, what's going to be the hangover from this, and what's going to be the takeaways? Are people going to go, hey, did they change something? I think what you mentioned, Kathy, was groundbreaking, though. Go ahead.
Well, let's talk about a few things. The first thing is, did we know before this definitively that Tesla, Starlink, Tesla, SpaceX,
and Elon Musk personally hold Bitcoin? We knew that Tesla owned Bitcoin. We didn't know definitively that Elon owned Bitcoin. Now he says that he mostly holds Bitcoin and maybe Doge. He revealed also that he owns Ethereum. This is a revelation that we didn't previously know. So there were a few kind of those teasers. I agree with you, but there wasn't something to say, okay, my question going into this was, okay, look, Elon put the top on the market. Can he put the bottom in as well? And I think that this was his attempt at putting the bottom in the market.
And do you think he was successful? I mean, let's go through what we learned and answer that later, because this is very fresh. We're just after the game. The players are still, in the dressing room. So we know Elon owns Bitcoin, then small amounts relative of Ethereum and Doge. Big revelation. We didn't know he owned Ethereum. We suspected he owned Doge. And he kind of hasn't admitted as straightforward as that he personally owns Bitcoin.
Correct.
We also know that Elon owns those assets and no other listed or tradable assets in the world other than his own assets. So that's huge. I mean,
right. He's basically saying, I'm not a trader, right? He says, and he said it, I might pump, but I don't dump. He's telling everybody, I'm not trading this stuff. I'm not sitting here trying to manipulate the markets for my own personal gain, but rather he's using his platform to influence what he believes as things that are good for the world, in essence.
We also know that all three entities now own Bitcoin, which we didn't know before. We thought it was only Tesla we knew about. That brings me to a very interesting point, that there may be many other corporations that own Bitcoin, but don't own enough Bitcoin to have to disclose, which is probably the case around SpaceX, because you only have to disclose Bitcoin when it's above, I think, 8 or 10% of your balance sheet or your cash reserves. I'm not sure what the US SEC road is, but that does show us that there are many other companies in the States that probably own Bitcoin, but don't have the need to disclose it, right?
Correct, but there's also a periodic element, right? Because they don't have to disclose on a daily basis, right? So the question is, when did SpaceX and when did Elon Musk personally buy Bitcoin? My suspicion, and this is what I said at the time, when he tweeted out that Tesla was no longer going to accept Bitcoin, was that he was actually trying to knock the market down so he can get in cheaper. And now we know that he's given these revelations that he personally owns it in SpaceX. So he could have bought them within the last 2-3 weeks while the price was low.
Yeah. Also, look, SpaceX is a private company. It's not a listed company, so they they do have reporting in the States. So the SEC does require private companies to report, but not as stringently as those companies. Let's look at what else we learned today. I mean, we did learn that Cathie Wood is quite sexy.
Yes, I love Cathie Wood. I thought her point about ESG was right on point, because this is everybody, and I've said it to reporters before as well, and I've told them flat out, Bitcoin is not an ESG investment. And she's saying, wait. There's two other letters in this ESG. Yes, environment is one, but also social and governance. And as far as both social and governance, Bitcoin is there, and it is, it does fulfill those requirements as far as ESG. So what they're saying is, wait a second, we certainly have to improve the efficiency of mining and things like this. We have to make sure that Bitcoin's mining is, less energy intensive and using more clean energy. Now that China's out of the market and all of their dirty coal is gone, I mean, it's only a matter of reassessing and researching it right now and saying, okay, what's the level, now that the hash rate has dropped from 191 all the way down to 93 today, how much of that is renewable? Probably the renewables are the ones that stayed. So I would guess, and obviously this is without any serious digging, that we're probably closer to that 70 or 80% renewable energy at this point. And if somebody can come out and give a research that says, and obviously that's what Michael Saylor's working on, and say, okay, this is renewable energy, then we have the E, we have the S, we have the G, and the corporations can go all in again.
All right. So yes, we know that. We also know that he said that when it's about 50% plus, he'll be happy, and then Tesla will start accepting Bitcoin. I got the feel from the tone in his voice that it was kind of like a done deal. He knows that he just wants to see one more research report.
He's a smart card player, Ron. He's gonna hold on to that one and play it at the exact right time. His timing is impeccable. So you'll see as soon as that announcement comes.
I feel that that is a crazy thing to harp on. I'll tell you why. How many people were actually going to pay for a Tesla using Bitcoin?
And it was the same thing that when AT&T announced that they were accepting Bitcoin, right, for people paying their bills. I mean, who in their right mind is going to spend the most precious asset on the planet on something as trivial as your bills? Like, get out of here. I mean,
get out of here. Let's just have a look at what else we saw there today. Kathy's very smart. I mean, she is exceptionally smart. She raised the bar there. Jack, I mean, he's got a good beard game. He's sitting in Ghana, man. He's sitting in Ghana with a fan. I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't make sense. Like,
I looked at one point when the moderator asked him right after Elon Musk spoke about Dogecoin and his ironic theory, and Jack was like torn. You could see like him going. He didn't want to contradict Elon Musk, right? But he also wanted to promote his own maximalist philosophy. So he was like, and a bit of stammering there. But that's perfectly understandable. But it's funny to see somebody in that kind of position of power. Everybody has to serve somebody at some point, I suppose, or everybody looks up to somebody. And yeah, I thought I thought Jack was okay. I mean, I've seen him better. Elon was, as you mentioned, he was definitely tired. I think he was out partying with Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. I think that's what that's all about. Is the space tourism thing is a lot for him. The fact that he even showed up today at all is a big testament to the fact that this is top of mind for him.
But I mean, what choice did he have not to show up? I mean, after all of that, not to show up just sounds a bit, I don't know. It sounds a bit crazy.
I mean, he obviously confirmed these dates in advance, right? He knew that these were the dates, and he obviously could have said, no, I'm not going to take that panel, or let's do it a different day or something like that. He knew he was going to be busy this day. And the fact that he did it on this day, and even though everything's happening with the space tourism, which is really where his world lies, that shows that this is important for him. It's important enough to get out of bed, early after a night of partying and actually show up and pump it, as they say.
Was that enough to call the top and then call the bottom? So do you think that? I mean, we saw a big dump 3 or 4 days ago. We were at 28,500. We are now back at 32,000, 31,710. Elon said some good things about Bitcoin. This whole stream around demystifying all the negativity of Bitcoin has been absolutely superb. Was this the conference that got us through the bottom, and now we are going back up, albeit slowly?
So I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, "He who picks bottoms ends up with stinky fingers."
We said that twice on the show. We said if you do try and pick a bottom, you will get a smelly finger.
Yes, stinky finger. So look, I mean, what my number one indicator is the volumes, and we have the hype. We have the social aspect, which is picking up. We can see on Lunar Crush data. I mean, something like this just sends the social metrics haywire, but we didn't see the exchange volumes. And that's what I want to see. I want to see exchange volumes starting to build up to where they were 2-3 months ago. And that's when I'll say, okay, we're ready to go all in again.
Ati, there cannot be exchange volume when there is an overhang of 41,000 Bitcoin in GBTC, selling at a 14.49% discount. This effectively means that any smart investor like Kathy Wood can buy Bitcoin at a 15% discount. Yes, you don't hold your own keys, but this is the next best option. It is insured. It is Bitcoin only. It is a very small management fee, 2% a year management fee, or 2.5%. I don't know the exact number, but call it 2% a year. For as long as you can buy Bitcoin off the market in a share, which is very, very safe and stored and custodied at 15% cheaper than a Bitcoin costs in the market, the volume cannot come back into the markets. It is impossible. That is why Cathie Wood, who has previously bought Bitcoin, just for the record, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest has previously bought Bitcoin, is now buying shares of GBTC. She bought $100 million worth of GBTC shares in the last 48 hours. No volume can come back to exchanges for as long as there's 41,000 Bitcoin sitting in a GBTC unlock. Impossible.
I don't see personally the connection. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see the connection because there's traders across the market. Not everybody has access to GBTC. Not everybody believes in GBTC as the pricing metric. I mean, the fact that there's a premium, a discount is not necessarily an attractive thing to me. It just means that they're very bad at tracking the price, as it were.
There's a massive overhang of shares that got released over the last 4 or 5 days. This is a once in a long time opportunity to buy Bitcoin at 15% under the market price. You can buy.
Walk me through it, Ron. Why? So maybe you're saying that because so how are the volumes today on Grayscale then? Can you see that?
I don't have the live volumes on Grayscale, but what do we know? We know that the GBTC GBTC only holds Bitcoin. It holds nothing else.
Okay.
Any Bitcoin held in GBTC are insured and custodied, so you don't have to worry about that. Losing your keys, not losing your keys. You can buy, if you look at this chart over here, what it shows is that you can buy a GBTC share at $24.01, but the net asset value of the share is 28.08, which means that right now you can buy it at 14% less. The reason why this is happening is because people who bought into the GBTC trust, accredited investors, had to wait 6 months for their shares. That's the law in the United States. And now, because so many people bought into this in February, 6 months ago, the shares are only unlocking now. And there's an oversupply of these GBTC shares in the market. And because there is an oversupply of GBTC shares in the market, there is a discount of 14.49%. Rest assured, when those 41,000 Bitcoin worth of headphones, I see Sheldon's head doesn't have headphones. When those 41,000 shares, 41,000 BTC worth of Grayscale shares dry up, not only will the Bitcoin price go up, but so will the exchange price go up, and so will this premium go to zero. So I'm telling the banter community right now that you should get yourself some GBTC shares instead of Bitcoin. If you're going to buy Bitcoin, buy GBTC.
That's as may be, but I'll tell you what. Maybe you're savvy investor and you're able to take advantage of this type of 15% premium. But what I'm seeing from Masari data at the moment is that we were basically we came off of about $30 billion total for Bitcoin volumes across exchanges, and now we saw a bump today, but we're up to 5. Bring me up to 10, man. Okay, don't tell me that all of those people are now trading GBTC. That's BS, man. I'm telling you, bring me up to 10, bring me up to 15, bring me up to where we were this entire year up to 2 weeks ago, right? We're still in the doldrums.
We were in a raging bull market, Matti. The prices are down, the interest is down. The weak retail hands got liquidated and got chucked out of this market as quickly as they came in, and now we're in a different time.
Yeah, as we say.
Matti, thank you, my friend. Always good to see you.
Thanks a lot for having me, man.
I'm glad we could finally get a beer together.
Anytime. We'll see you soon.
Cool, brother. So that is my friend Matti Greenspan. Love chatting to him. Always, he's a stable, he's a calm guy. He's unexcitable. Not as unexcitable as George, because George is like doesn't move. But Matti is a little bit more. He's a little bit more excitable than George. Whatever happens, don't tell Bitboy about the stream. He'll say it was his idea. It wasn't his idea. Our idea. Friend's idea. Shh. All right, so that's our summary of today. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll be here for another 5 minutes. If you guys have any questions about tonight or any questions in general, I'm not shaving because Irina said keep the beard, so the beard stays. Any other questions, let us know. I think the super chats are enabled if you want super chats. Yes, Bitboy does copy banter. I mean, have you seen his new show called Around the Blockchain? around the blockchain. It's exactly our Friday banter. I mean, okay, well, don't worry. It's the we love BitBoy. It's the best sign of flattery when other people copy us. Let's do it. Keep copying us, guys. Keep copying us. Will you take some salt, Ran? Give me some salt. I love the salt. Yeah, alrighty. Oh, look who's back. Shady's back.
What's up?
Shady.
What's up? How's my son?
What's up? What did you think, Shaldino? What did you think?
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit. I was hoping for a bit more excitement, but I think overall it was positive. I think it was good. It wasn't too. He was talking. He was very clear about him being invested, and he repeated it a few times. So I think that is still a good. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it definitely is a good thing. All right, we're gonna end the stream now. You finally got your headphones, but you know this is like time to go home. It is.
I'm surprised you guys are working overtime like this. I didn't
It's
even
10
know.
p.m. here, and there's a curfew at 9, so we now have to dodge the police to get home, or we have to sleep here. Don't know. Someone's asking about the trading competition with other YouTubers. We have got Coach K in. We have got a whole lot of them in. We are trying to get more people in. We're trying to get more people in. We will do it. We just didn't want to do it in a bad market so that people will try follow us and maybe get wrecked. Because, you know, in a bad market, anyone can get wrecked. Even Fibonacci Lee, even Lee can get wrecked in a bear market. BitBoy can also get wrecked in a bear market. Can happen to anyone. Can happen to anyone. Alrighty, we will see you again tomorrow, bright and early. If you are trading, trade well, my friends.